When I come here to Romania, I have 4 goals. My goal is to teach, to learn, to see old friends, and to make new friends. And I believe that I have the time and the energy to teach. And I want to teach I want to teach and learn in as many places as I can. Sure, the new topic is family strengths. And every family develops strengths, and when we develop strengths, we can then encourage one another. So I'm going to, through my teaching, hopefully help people identify family strengths, and then also identify some strengths in themselves, and then also identify those people in their lives who have been encouraging to them. And my initial experience was not a very good one. I went to hear an Adlerian speak, and I didn't like what he said and didn't understand him. And I was wrong, and I believe in life we have second chances. And about a year later, I began studying Adlerian psychology with another individual, and I got it. I liked it. I couldn't do it. I liked the ideas of equality. I liked the ideas of doing good for the good of others because it needs to be done. I liked the idea of we are all moving in a direction toward being useful and helpful. I liked the idea that we can understand people through 4 or 5 different tools for understanding. I like those things, and I wanted to learn more, and I began studying. And the more I began to study, the more I began to like the work, and eventually I began teaching. I suppose about 5 years after I began my study, I began teaching Adlerian psychology to parents. And then I began to apply it in a variety of areas. And about 5 years ago, I began writing. And I've written 8 workbooks about Adlerian psychology, 4 of which are in Romanian. A destinația, a big destination, a big goal, according to Adlerian thinking, that it's like a big magnet that we create. We create the magnet, and it's out in front of us, and we're always moving toward that goal that we have defined. And the way that we move toward that is the drone, is the pathway. Being here in Pietrnems, one of the things that I like is this is where there's much timber around here. And one of the tasks that Adler said is when people marry, he would like to have them go out with a big saw, the 2 people, and
I love this
and saw down a tree to see how they get along and who takes the leadership. And then they would be observed by all the people in the community, or that they would invite to watch them. And I like that. I'm devoted to the writings of Alfred Adler and the people that learned from him. I like very much to study the students of Adler and Adler's writing. If they sat with him, they have a pretty good idea of how he might proceed, I believe. And the intimacy is a task for 2. I failed intimacy once, and the second time I got it right. Well, my secret is that in relationships, I think probably the most important, there are 3 areas. One, we need to talk, and we need to trust, and we need to touch. And along with that, we need to be very, very good friends with our partner. And sometimes people are married without always being friends. And I think that's the most important part of a relationship, is the friendship between the 2. Everything else from there, I think, can work out if we are friends. I'll use some American slang. Someone who likes me just the way I am. Someone who understands me and accepts me even though there are parts of me that are a little weird. And we all have those parts that are, we all have those characteristics that are there. And I think a friend is someone who likes you. Someone who likes you, someone who likes me, and they're consistent and predictable. that's how I would think of friendship. And it's a lifelong task to establish and maintain friendships. We have friendships that come and go, and those are more like acquaintances. But I have some friends who have been friends all of my life. I have a friend who's been my friend for 65 years, and I cherish her friendship a great deal. My mother was a teacher who loved her work. My father was a farmer who loved his work. In the Romanian language, I would be from the countryside. I would be a peasant boy, and I'm very proud of that. Me too. Yeah, and I like very much being from the countryside. And I have a love of hard work, and I work a great deal, and I have had good teachers, and I have watched teachers teach, and I think I want to take that he does, and that she does, and then over time I have developed a consistent and predictable style of teaching. You have seen me 5 times, and my style of teaching doesn't change very much. I am highly organized, and I have lots of knowledge in my head. I do not lecture, and I use 3 ideas in my teaching. I want, first of all, to help people and me gather information. That's the first step, is to gather the information regards the topic. The second piece is to process it, is to talk about it, is to look at it from different points, or look at an idea from for different ways of understanding. So we gather the information, we process it, and then the third part is the application. And I want to bring good energy to the classroom, and I want very much the students to know that we are equals. You know a great deal about you and your life. I know some things about Adlerian psychology. Let's see if we can make if we can have some understanding about life as a result of our being together. I much prefer teaching adults. I've been teaching for 48 years. And I like very much being a teacher. I would like to teach another 10 years when I can see them be interested, when I can see someone go, oh, I understand. Or someone begins to sit and they think, and they're beginning to think about their lives in new and different ways, in new and helpful ways. Adler was a positive psychologist. His idea of psychology was we need to focus on assets and strengths. We need to identify our mistakes that we make in life. However, we need to focus on assets and strengths also. We need to encourage. We also need to find out when we're not getting along with ourselves and others, what that's about. My energy comes from many years of teaching, the love of the subject matter, the love of people. I like people a lot. I like being around people. Especially talking quietly in small groups. I like that. Very small groups. And I like teaching that no one is better than anyone else. And I would say a second idea, that we are all here connected together to make a better world for our children and our children's children and our children's children's children. And I want us all, people from all places, to work together to improve the world. I guess I've always believed our job is to conserve our earth and to make our earth a good place to live. I've believed that very strongly since I've been probably 12 or 13 or 14. That's been an important idea for me, is to honor the earth, to respect the earth, and to respect the beings on the earth. And to realize that we are just part of a big world that I don't understand. There may be many, many things out there in the cosmos that I don't understand. I think my parents both worked really hard to provide a good living for them and to provide something for me and my future, and thus I am going to provide for my children and their future also. I'll provide for myself well also. Well in perhaps financial ways, or in social ways, or in spiritual ways, or in educational ways, or in contributions to the world. If we begin to look at them as equals, if we begin, they have the equal right to mutual respect and to be dignified. And we can wish and wish our children to be different. They will not change until we do. I think that there are some structural things that we can do in a family that can make a huge amount of difference in the way that children are perceived. And I make a little house. I draw a little house. And there are 5 parts. And the bottom story, or the floor of the house, is built on respect. And in respect, we have, my idea of respect is that we are kind and firm at the same time. So we balance kindness and firmness. We have limits. That's the firmness with love. That's the kindness, and we balance that. And one wall is rules, and every family has rules. I like 2. I like 2 and only 2 rules. The first one is respect others, self, and the environment. And the second rule is help each other learn and succeed. So with those 2 rules, and those are posted, or those are stated in the positive, and they're also trainable. We can train children and ourselves to be respectful of self, of others, and the environment. And we can train others to help each other succeed, to learn and to succeed. We can train those. Those are teachable skills. And then the other side, the other wall of the house, that's where the casa, where family lives, would be routine. And routine, families need predictability and consistency. Not rigidity, but consistency. And then the roof. The roof has rights. Everyone has a right. And they have rights to certain things in the world. But with every right, there's a responsibility. I think that many times we, in families, some people demand lots of rights and they're not very responsible. And I believe if you want the right to a mobile phone, you have the responsibility for paying for part of it. I believe that. Children will, or teenagers will say, I want a mobile phone, I want a mobile phone. And I will say, fine, you may have a mobile phone when you are willing to pay what it would take to put you on the family plan. You mean I have to you mean I have to find a way to earn money? I don't know. If you want to have a mobile phone, yes, you'll probably have to find a way to earn money. So with every right, there's a responsibility. If I want a right to the clean house, then I need to be responsible for keeping the house clean and tidy and presentable. I think also parents can do 5 things. They can demonstrate mutual respect. What that means is they can talk only when the atmosphere is friendly, and when in doubt, don't talk. We need to communicate love. We need to encourage our children. We need to take time together alone for children. With our children, they deserve our time alone, with no mobile, no TV, no computers on, just the 2 of us building a relationship together. And the 5th part, excuse me, is to take time for training. Children need to have skills They need to know how to do the things necessary to fit into the world, and they need to be trained by adults. So we need to take time for training. I like those 5 guidelines for parenting. One of the things that I think that teenagers are wanting is to slowly move away from home. And they need to have an open path to slowly move away from home. At the onset of puberty, children are entering another phase of their life. And I think that kids want to be free. And our job as parents is to give the children roots. That is the things that we value and they meet. And we give them roots. And we also need to give them wings so that they can fly away. But wings are like the bird. They're not grown overnight. It's springtime here in Ph.D, and baby birds are going to be born soon. And they don't fly on the day they are born, but they are prepared, they are in process, in preparation for flying all through life until they can fly and fly comfortably and fly out and fly back. And that's what an adolescent needs to learn to do, is to learn to fly and leave the nest and then fly back. We need to train adolescents how to work and how to have fun. We need to encourage their friendships and be a friend to them. I think that there needs to be a boundary between parents and teenagers, just as there are rights of adults that children do not have the rights to. And I think that we need to train parents, we need to train kids how to be in love. We need to show them and talk with them about loving relationships. We don't often do that, but I would like it if we did. And I think we need to talk with kids, not to, but with kids. And be interested in their life and know that always, every generation has something that the generation below it does not understand. When I grew up, television was what was going to ruin the lives of the world. And when other people grew up, it was the computer that was going to ruin the lives of the world. And when other people grew up, it was the mobile phones that were going to ruin the life of the world. Well, it hasn't happened. And all the children who become parents who the parents were concerned about the mobile home or the mobile phone, there will be something in the next generation that they will not understand. And I think that we talk in America about the generation gap, and I think that's created by adults. I think that we as adults look down on adolescents. We don't attempt to understand them, nor relate to them. I like them, by the way. I think they're fine. One of the biggest things we can do with adolescents is to teach them to make decisions. Adolescents in their thinking think in extremes. They think all or none, love or hate, awful or awesome. And that defines their thinking. It's polarized thinking for the most part. And in reality, we need to teach people to think in threes. So we can begin to work as adults in the world of adolescence is to teach them to think in threes. There are 3 possible places you could go to university. There are 3 possible careers. You have thought 2 ways about a topic. Could I add a 3rd way of thinking about something? So they teach them to think in threes. Because kids practice equality. If mom can punish me, I can punish mom. If dad can punish me, I can punish dad. They practice equality. Adults don't understand equality, but children and adolescents practice it. If you can yell at me, I can yell at you. They practice that. And we as adults don't get that. Seems like when we get to the adult world, we forget the notion of equality that we learned as children and adolescents. One of the things that adolescents and the aggressiveness is they say that life is not fair. We need to be fair to them. We need to explore with them the idea of fairness. Also, in the society I live in, I'm an American, and there are two groups that have the most prejudice directed toward them outside the racial groups. Those are young people, that is adolescents, and old people. We make lots of jokes and lots of fun about old people, and we make lots of jokes and lots of fun about teenagers. I think that every age group has something to contribute. Every age group needs to be viewed as equal to each other, to other age groups. Aggressive children, they're in a power struggle, or aggressive people want to hurt others as they believe they have been hurt. I'm trying to get back to the aggressive.
What do you think of punishment?
Punishment can only go from a superior to an inferior. I think that we need to seek alternatives to punishment, and I think that the alternatives to punishment are natural and logical consequences and seeking of solutions. When we punish, we are treating people as I am superior, you are inferior. When I praise, I am treating someone, I am superior and you are inferior. I can judge you. Praise is always a form of judgment. I think in lieu of punishment and praise, they go hand in hand. I think we need to use natural consequences, logical consequences, choices and options, and seeking solutions. And we need to encourage. So we balance our relationships with problem solving and personal support. I used to be an entertainer first and an educator second. And now I hope I have switched that. I am an educator first and an entertainer second. I can be really funny, and I know that. And I like being around people with good senses of humor. I don't think the world is one big joke. I think humor is a way to enjoy life. When I was a little boy, I lived with my grandpa and grandma and my mother, and then my mother's uncle, and my mother and father and I lived together. And the adults, other than my parents, were all Danish, and they would talk about the old country. Oh, I want to go back to the old country. Or they would say, in the old country we did things like this. When I came to Europe for the first time, I thought to myself, I'm returning to the old country. And I've been to Europe nearly 20 times from the US. And it's like for me coming home to the old country. I've not been to Denmark yet. And I think, by the way, that's a strong idea from Adlerian psychology. We haven't gotten that done yet. Always with hope. Always with, in Romanian, always with speranța. Always with courage, and always ușură. All children need respect. All people need respect, rules, routine, rights, and responsibilities. And if I grow up in the city, in a small city, in a small town, in the village, in the countryside, if I have those 5 components in my life, life will be good. To learn about themselves and others, to respect the ideas of themselves and others, to verbalize what we think about others to them that we find to be positive. In Romania, my observation is this, that people are very helpful to one another in a situation. Oh, I'll help you with your car. I'll help you with your luggage. I'll help you with your groceries. I'll do those things. We have not learned yet, from my observation, to talk encouragingly to one another. We will say to our neighbors, oh, I really like my next door neighbor. She's kind and she's sweet and she's respectful and she practices the religion that she's part of. And we go all our lives without ever telling her that. what I want to train people to do today is to train them to, when I talk about someone, I will tell them what I have talked about, and I will tell you what I have said about you to your face. 3 kinds of gossip. There's bad gossip, and bad gossip is when I say something critical and mean-spirited about another person. Not to their face, but I talk to them behind their back, as we say. Second kind of gossip is good gossip. You and I talk about a third person that we like. Okay? It becomes useful gossip when I talk with you about what I like about a third person, and then I go tell that third person what I have said about them. That becomes useful gossip. And I like that very much, the idea of useful gossip. I didn't know what to call it today, until today. Last year I think I called it bad gossip and good gossip, and now I've got helpful and useful gossip, and that's encouragement. And I see in our country and in other countries that I work in Romania that people don't talk to each other about their assets and strengths. We don't do that in America either, and I think very well, yet. And I think that today and tomorrow we will focus on that. On being grateful, and on saying thank you, and verbalizing to others what we perceive to be their assets and strengths. I'm thinking about doing something on family stress. Families have stressors. Every family have changes and adaptations that go on. And Adlerians talk about stress. And I've written a workbook on family stress, or family stressors. After that, I'm not sure yet. I trust myself, and I allow that to happen. I might go back to the old Adlerian ideas and maybe do something on early memories, maybe do something on family constellation. I haven't done any work with family constellation for a while. I've also written a workbook on family structure, on how families are put together and what they believe in and what they value. In fact, I'll tell you an interesting story. In my life, I've been profoundly affected by old men, by men over the age of 75, between 75 and 80 and 90. And about 4 years ago, I went to lunch with a man who was, I think, 84 or 85 at the time. And we began talking, and I took out a napkin like this, and I began to take notes. I began to write. And when I left the table, I made a commitment to this man that I would work with him on development of 4 workbooks. And one on family structure, one on family strengths, one on family stressors, and one on family social interest. And I've written those now, and Tom is written as the co-author, and he's the cheerleader, he's the encourager. He has some ideas, and he sends me some ideas, but mostly he says, keep after it, Wes, you're doing it. He's 88 years old, and I do the writing, and then I send him the finished product, and he always encourages me, and that's been his part. And he's been very, very pleased to have been part of that, and I'm pleased to have been inspired by his belief in me and my abilities. And I saw the mountains, and I saw the city, and I was so appreciative. And I slowed down to appreciate that. And when I was in Brasov, I could look out the window where I was teaching, and I could see just a little sliver of the mountains. And every so often I would look out there and see the mountains. And I think we need to appreciate the simple things. When I saw the water last night, when I came into town, I felt, yes, this is good. The water is here. I will, and I do, and I have in the past, and that will continue.
Thank you, Wes Wingett.
Thank you very much, Cindy. I appreciate your work, and I appreciate your translation, and I appreciate your filming.
Mulțumesc.
Cuplurilor.